No! 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 No!
Alright guys, it is a sad day today, man. As you all know, Bungie recently announced that they'll be releasing Destiny 2's final update in the coming weeks, essentially marking the end for one of my favorite games of all time. Honestly, Destiny 2, in my opinion, is without a doubt one of the greatest games ever made. Its gunplay and gameplay mechanics are second to none. It's loaded with unique and fun activities, the dungeons, the raids, the strikes, the DLCs, the community, the cosmetics. Everything about Destiny is just so awesome, and it's always been a game that I can go back to when my rotation is like in a drought or new DLC drops. It's just always been so consistent for the last decade that I never actually thought this day would come, even if by its own standards it had been falling incredibly short of the mark for a while, especially after the final shape. But even though the writing had been on the wall for a while now, it still just feels weird to me knowing that it's actually done. And to be honest, Bungie probably should have ended it after the final shape. They should have capitalized on the goodwill of the community and started on Destiny 3. But unfortunately, with the position they're in now, I honestly believe that the franchise is probably cooked beyond repair. With everything going on at Sony and Bungie, with Marathon in the state that it's in, and Bungie just not really being the studio that we used to know, I really don't see a reality in which we get any new Destiny content for a long time, if at all. And I just want to talk a little bit about why I feel that way and why Bungie has just made an absolute mess of their biggest and pretty much only successful current franchise. Now, most of the conversation online has been about how Bungie is choosing to focus its efforts on Marathon instead of Destiny, and that this is the reason for Destiny essentially coming to an end. But if we're being honest, Bungie has been making a mess of Destiny long before Marathon was released, and there is a long list of fuck-ups and mismanagement of Destiny long before this whole Marathon debacle. You know, the game was constantly marketed as free to play, but it's never really been that. It's free to download, but if you want to actually enjoy the content, you had to be prepared to spend about $100 Canadian every 6 months or so. There are so many egregious paywalls and paid content requirements that it's kind of shocking the game lasted as long as it did, especially with, content vaulting and sunsetting where your paid content was basically locked and unplayable. It's crazy, but that just shows how great the content was, because me and my friends and most of the Destiny community would fork up the cash like clockwork every single expansion, like total fucking donkeys, every single time. And this worked for a while for Bungie. People were still playing Destiny, the player count was still high, people were willing to deal with the egregious greed and paywalls in order to play the content that was released, because the content was still very good. That's up until they released Lightfall, which is one of the worst received DLCs and expansions that Bungie's ever released for Destiny 2, and rightly so. It was absolutely terrible. The campaign sucked. There wasn't a lot of activities that were fun to play. There was still so many paywalls, and people just didn't really give a fuck anymore. It was kind of like, what am I actually paying for at this point? And that kind of began the downfall, which was surprising because then they came out with the final shape, which was by all aspects a great DLC, and it kind of gave them some more goodwill. It kind of got that reputation back. People were really having fun. I loved the final shape, and I honestly think this is where they probably should have ended Destiny 2. You had a great final villain in the Witness. The story felt like it was wrapped up in a tight little bow. It would have just been the perfect time. But this is Bungie, this is Sony, and I feel like there was probably a lot of pressure to maintain revenue and maintain profit and maintain performance. And with Destiny being Bungie's basically only successful game at the time, and still really only their successful game, they obviously wanted to keep it pushing. And then they released maybe the worst thing ever in history of DLCs, The Edge of Fate. My goodness, what a blunder, what a horrible piece of content. I can't even fathom that they actually thought that was a good DLC to release, because that was the end of Destiny for me. Since Edge of Fate, I haven't gone back. I just thought, there's nothing to play here. There's nothing to pay for. I don't want to fork over all this money anymore, because it's clear that Bungie just doesn't have the capabilities to keep this going like they want to. It's clear that they're just creatively bankrupt at this point. They don't want to have to move on and spend all the money that they would have to make Destiny 3. So they're just going to keep pumping out, mediocre expansion after mediocre expansion. And that's kind of what happened up until now, where they've continued to just release poor update after poor update after poor expansion, to the point where the casual player base now is just dwindled to basically nothing. And the only people left playing Destiny are the hardcore loyal fan base, which Destiny has always always been known for, and it's always been that thing that kept it relevant. But at this point, I don't even think that's enough to keep Destiny going, because clearly they just are not making enough money. And I don't think they have the personnel to continue to create good content for Destiny 2. I don't think they have the creativity. I don't think they have the talent. I don't think Bungie is anywhere close to what they need to be to actually deliver to the people enjoyable Destiny content. And that's just the reality that we're living in. And I know a lot of people in the Destiny community are upset. They think, Marathon is causing this. But guys, Marathon isn't causing it. Yeah, Marathon is dog shit too, and they're probably not going to go anywhere with that either. But Destiny has not been good for so long. Sometimes I just wonder, what's even the point of keeping on playing this game? What's the point of keeping hope? You guys know, even the main Destiny creators know that this game's been trash for a long time now, and they haven't released anything good in so long. Just let it go, let it die. It's sad to say, but unless Bungie comes out with, some type of statement saying they're working on Destiny 3, which I don't see, because we have reports from Jason Schreier that there's going to be tons of layoffs. We had that report that they have like a $3 million $3 billion impairment loss. I don't remember what the exact number is, but something crazy. They're basically just bleeding money, and there's just no way Sony's going to allow them to continue to put money into Destiny when it's not making them any money anymore. It's just kind of a dead franchise at this point. And Sony probably just thinks, Marathon's a new IP. They might be able to get some players from Destiny over to Marathon. They might think that they can improve Marathon to the point where it actually has a steady flow of players and a steady flow of income, and they can maybe make some of their money back. Now, I think this is all just desperation from Sony and Bungie. I don't think any of this is going to happen. I think Marathon is not nearly popular enough to warrant ending your biggest franchise. But like I said, I just don't think they have the people and the talent in order to maintain Destiny 2. Now, if it was me, I would just instantly right now announce Destiny 3 is in the works, because that would absolutely be so hype. All the Destiny players would come back saying finally they're making a good decision. Even if we don't see Destiny for 5 years, at least people will know that they will get Destiny back one day. I don't think that that's ever going to happen, because I just think Bungie doesn't have the money at this point. I don't think they have the resources, and that's pretty much been known by everyone, even like all these journalists. Like, they're basically reporting on Bungie being in the mud. Paul Tassi's talking about how bad it is at Bungie. Jason Schreier's talking about how bad it is at Bungie. And this might just be the end for Destiny, guys. In its entirety, it might be the end for Bungie. And it's sad to say, because this studio was once one of the biggest and most talented studios in the gaming industry, but they've just fallen off to a place that is not even recognizable at this point. And this probably was going to happen no matter what at some point, even without Marathon, like I said before. Now, if I'm Bungie, I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do if you're Sony. Maybe you get a different studio to take on Destiny, take on that project. That might be interesting, but I don't see that happening either. But all I know is that if this was Xbox that purchased Bungie for $3 billion, and then only a few years later Bungie was basically going to go bankrupt and dissolve, and all of its major IPs were going to be in the mud, holy fuck, the backlash would be crazy. And I just don't think we should be letting Sony off the hook for this. As much as Bungie is dog shit talentless and just not where they once were, Sony is so much to blame for this as well. Why are you even greenlighting a project like Marathon that nobody is interested in? You're putting a game out that already is in an oversaturated genre of, the fucking extraction shooter. You already have a first-person shooter in Destiny that's insanely popular, although not as popular now. But dude, if anything, you have a better chance at reviving Destiny than you do making a new IP out of a franchise that no one really cares about anymore. Like, what are you guys even thinking? I don't know. I think it's all just ridiculous. I think every decision that's been made by Bungie and Sony in the last 5 years has just been a head scratcher. And that's just where we're at right now, guys. And I don't know what to say. I don't know how you get out of this. I don't know if there's any hope. But yeah, although the writing's been on the wall, like I said, although people have been seeing this coming for a long time, it is still just extremely sad that Destiny 2 is ending with no light at the end of the tunnel, no Destiny 3 announcement. You know, if you were to say, oh, Destiny 2's ending, you would probably think that Bungie would have announced, yeah, and Destiny 3 is coming. You wouldn't have to wait too long for Destiny 3. That's what I would have hoped for. I feel like that's what most people would have hoped for. You know, if Destiny 2 ends and you got like a 2 years between that and Destiny 3, I think everyone would be happy. But the state it's in now, it doesn't look like it's happening. It looks like this is the end for Destiny for the foreseeable future. It looks like it's the end for Bungie almost for the foreseeable future, because I don't think Marathon's going to keep them afloat. And, you know, I hope somehow this all works out. I don't care about Marathon though. I hope Marathon crashes and burns, and I hope they just go back to Destiny, because, you know, even though I haven't played Destiny for a while, it's been maybe like a year. I've always got that itch. I always have that itch to play Destiny, and I just want more Destiny. I want it to be good again. I want Bungie to be good again, and I hope that does happen. But guys, let me know your thoughts on this whole Destiny 2 debacle, this whole Bungie thing with Marathon and Sony and them bleeding money. Let me know what you all think and leave it in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. Peace.